Doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to present you our MLB On Deck segment for Tuesday, April 23rd. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our MLB, NBA, NFL videos. And if you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel, and DraftKings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for all your DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So, hey, what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
Yo, what up, man? Monster slate to get into.
Monster slate to get into. As always, we use this video more as a preview video. If you want a more in-depth analysis on anybody that we're talking about, hitters-wise, pitcher-wise, we got about 5 or 6 other articles up on the site just for MLB. Plus, we got NBA going strong. Got NASCAR on the weekend, PGA, MMA, a lot of good things going on. So check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. So, yeah, man, like I said, I'm ready to jump into it. We'll touch on some teams that we think we should target bat-wise. You can kind of jump in and give us some pictures that you're liking, and we can just kind of go from there. So I'm ready to go if you're ready to go.
Let's get into it.
Cool. Couple teams I'm looking at to target bat-wise. First, I'm going to start with the White Sox. They have the highest implied total on the slate going against Andrew Cashner. Andrew Cashner is a cash can. Don't let his his numbers on this season fool you. He's got out of a lot of jams this year, which has kind of kept his number down and kind of, his numbers haven't been worse, but he hasn't been pitching that good. He gives up a 355 WOBA to left-handers, 373 WOBAs to right-handers. And an interesting thing that me and you were just talking about is this year, Andrew Cashner has actually been more of a reverse splits kind of pitcher. So he's getting hit harder, more about right-handers than he is left-handers. That's just kind of something that we found. A couple guys that's really standing out to me on the White Sox. I'm going to look at Jose Abreu. Had a monster game yesterday. 2,800 is just too cheap for the guy who's the best player on his team. Has double dog upside, and he's 6 for 9 with 2 doubles in his career against Andrew Cashner. He's a righty on righty. We just talked about we like the reverse splits. One more guy also standing out that's in the 5-hole today is Willington Castillo. 5 for 14 with 2 doubles in his career. I like those 2 guys are the guys that are standing out. Other guys that you can look at Alonso. You can look at a Moncada. You can look at Tim Anderson at shortstop. But I'm really liking Abreu and Castillo going against Cashner. Next team it's Boston. I like Boston today, but we gotta kind of wait and see what happens with Boston in this first game. Do you want to quickly give us an overview of kind of what you're telling me with that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of games today that you have to pay attention to, and this game is probably the most important of that. So Eovaldi goes to the disabled list. He's going to have surgery, so that puts him a starter down. This is a doubleheader day. Game 1's very important from the standpoint that Chris Sale, they're going to go into this game with a plan that they need 7 innings out of Chris Sale. If they can get 7 innings out of Chris Sale and only have to use 2 guys out of their bullpen, that bodes well for Boston because game 2 is a bullpen game with Velasquez starting that. Velasquez has only gone 3 innings on 2 occasions this year. Other than that, he's been a guy out of the pen, so he's their long relief guy. So they'll probably look to get 5 out of him. But if either one, Sale or Velasquez, gets blown up, it puts their bullpen on heavy overdrive, right? And they're going to have to get a bunch of innings out of their bullpen. So if game 1 turns into a bullpen game where Chris Sale does not get deep in this game and they've got to blow through 3 or 4 relievers, and then you want to make sure that you use Boston Detroit, because then you're kind of banking on in tournaments. You're banking on Velasquez going 3 innings or less, getting blown up, and then they're really into that bullpen. Their bullpen as a whole is ranked 19th in ERA. So it's not a great bullpen. They're in the middle third and the end of the middle third. So that's a situation you want to pay attention to. The other one is Anaheim and the Yankees. Loaiza pitching for the Yankees today, and then Chris Stratton for the Angels, and that – you have to look at that game. They played 14 innings last night. The Angels ate up 8 innings out of their bullpen. The Yankees ate up 7 innings with their bullpen. So, you've got 2 guys in Loaiza and in Stratton that have not pitched well this season. Loaiza's been recalled from AAA to pitch this game, and Stratton's been beat up this year. So if that game has to go to a bullpen game, The Angels bullpen has been decent, but they used the front end of that bullpen last night early to try to get a win there. You have to think that they're going to be short-armed tonight when it comes to that. So those are the two situations you've got to pay attention and give consideration to today because of bullpens. The Yankees, you're going to want to monitor that while they're on this 14-game road trip as well. What happens, last night that bullpen ate up 7 innings. If they've got to eat up 7 innings tonight, that's going to be a tired bullpen where they're going to be looking for a pitcher to come in and eat up innings. This could be a situation where they tell Velasquez tonight, dude, you're going to wear it for 5 innings. We need 5 innings out of you, and whatever you give up, you give up. So Velasquez is not a real good pitcher. I mean, he's not a great pitcher. So there's an opportunity for Detroit, in my opinion, in that spot.
Yeah, so just to quickly touch on Chris Sale, literally as you were talking about him, he just gave up a home run. He's actually not pitching bad, man. He's pitched 4 innings, 8 Ks, but he's allowed 2 runs. But the fact is, he's already pitched 85 pitches, and he doesn't have an out yet in the 5th. So it's looking like he probably maybe goes 6, if he even gets out the 5th. So high pitch count, and he kind of on a short leash right now.
And this is what you have to pay attention to is these innings right here, what they do with Chris Sale. If they let him wear it and they extend him past 100 pitches, it tells you that they know game 2 is a bullpen game. If they get out of this or take Chris Sale out early at like 100 pitch mark, right away they're going to be in a tough spot in game 2. And you see this all the time with baseball. You see the fact, and why we're on it. I don't want to take a bunch of time here, but you need to pay attention to your entries today. FanDuel has notoriously moved up lock when there's a doubleheader on the slate. They have this game on the slate. It's listed for a 4:10 start Pacific, 7:10 Eastern, but we saw many times last year where FanDuel moved up lineup lock by 30 minutes because the doubleheader game was going to start earlier than what they thought it would. So you need to pay attention to that also.
Yeah, for sure. So just really quick, touching on Boston going against Turnbull. Turnbull's actually been pitching very good on the season. He's had a couple of really good starts, and he's really, really good against right-handers. I'm going to be targeting some of the Boston lefties. The main 2 guys that really stand out for me is going to be Benintendi, is going to be Moreland. He does give a 365 WOBA up to left-handers. So for Boston, I like the lefties. Like I said, Benintendi, Moreland, and then you can always look at their main guys and Bogarts, Betts, and JD Martinez. But I'm looking at the lefties for the Boston more than the righties. Moving on, next team I'm going to be looking at, we're going to be looking at Houston going against Michael Pineda. Pineda is another guy just like Andrew Cashner. He's a reverse splits guy. He only he allows a 285 WOBA to left-handers, which is actually pretty good, but a 373 WOBA to right-handers. And guess what? Houston has a bunch of righties that hit the ball very hard. I'm gonna stick with their main guys, and they have some good numbers. You got Correa 7 for 13, 2 doubles, 3 home runs. Springer 6 for 17 with the double, 2 home runs. Altuve 6 for 17 with the double, and then you always got to mention Bregman. He's one of their top players as well. So I really like them Houston righties. And then we're gonna go. Actually, before I get into the main event, well, one more team that I'm looking at, and I'll just quickly mention them is gonna be the Tampa Bay Rays going against Homer Bailey. Homer Bailey has been bad for the past couple of years. I mean, there's no other way around it. He's given up a 345 WOBA to left-handers, 376 WOBA to right-handers. So I like Tampa Bay as well. So that's where I'm at. And then just to finish it off, I'll throw it out there. We always mention it. Anytime that Colorado, Coors Field is on the slate, you got to look at them. It's pretty much a given now. For me today, I'm more on the Washington side of things. The guys that are standing out for me on Washington are some of the lefties. The guy Hoffman gives up a 405 WOBA to left-handers and a 275 WOBA to right-handers. So I definitely want to load up the lefties. You got to look at Eaton. You got to look at Soto. And a guy that I'm liking, I expect to be in the lineup today, is going to be Adams. He's probably going to be in that cleanup spot. He's 3,300, very good price tag. He's probably going to be my favorite play on Washington if he is in the lineup. So it's kind of a wait and see with that. And then on on the Colorado side of things, I'm not really interested in Colorado going against Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin has been pitching very good on the season. He gives up a 290 WOBA to left-handers, 284 WOBA to right-handers. So, I mean, the guy hasn't been getting hit extremely hard this season. And then, just really quick, do you want to quickly tell what you're telling me about the course field this season because it's not hot yet?
Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple things. One thing to look at is barrels, right? And how many barrels a guy is giving up. I do it every slate. I want to see how much hard contact is on the slate. And a couple of things. I didn't realize that Bettis was scratched. I thought he was still pitching, but I've been away. So I did the majority of my research between like midnight and 5 a.m. So is that the case? Bettis has been scratched for Colorado?
Right.
Okay, so I had not seen that yet. So Colorado, if you take a look at Colorado – over the last, let's just say 5 games, right? Last night, you got 16 runs scored in Pittsburgh. You got 14 runs scored in Baltimore. You got 18 runs scored in St. Louis, 14 runs scored in Houston, and 12 runs scored at Coors Field, right? So there was other spots you could target that yielded a ton of runs. You look at Sunday, Coors Field yielded, what was the score of that game? Look at 5 runs. And then you had 14 in Anaheim. You had 21 in Texas. You had 10 in St. Louis. St. Louis has been a hot spot, giving up a ton of runs. 11 in Milwaukee. You look at Saturday. 11 in New York. 12 in St. Louis. 11 in Baltimore. 23 in Baltimore in the second game there. 11 in Oakland. And then you look at Coors Field, and it didn't yield a whole lot of runs. I mean, so my point is that you don't. This is a point in time in the season where it's cold there. You don't have to necessarily have Coors Field. There's other park factors that give up a lot of runs. St. Louis is one to keep watching because the weather's been warm there and the wind's been blowing out. And there's been a combined with the fact that St. Louis is extremely hot as a team hitting. So you don't always have to have Coors Field. But one thing about Patrick Corbin is he has 8 batted ball events this year where he's given up an exit velocity of 95 miles per hour or higher, where somebody's barreled it up. And you've got 5 of those events against right-handed hitters. So Evan Longoria, Brandon Belt had one in the last game. The last game he pitched against the Giants, he has pitched very well, but he is giving up some hard contact, about 50% hard contact rate, and his fly ball rate is borderline. So could he be had? Yes, but could he absolutely go into Coors Field and dominate and get you a quality start? Yes, he can. We've seen some Philadelphia pitchers do that as well. So you don't have to – right now is not a time where you got to feel like I have to stack up Coors Field. You can definitely be different, faded, and use a pitcher at Coors Field.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, as it starts getting hot, the things will start changing, and you'll probably never hear us say that the rest of the year. But right now, I get what you're saying completely. So this is targeting bats today wasn't the hard part for me. Targeting pitchers was the hard part for me. So what you got for us pitcher-wise, bro?
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely think there's some spots that you could take a look at. Luke Weaver is an interesting play to me. Luke Weaver's had a couple of really good starts, coming off a really good start against Atlanta where he went 5 innings and struck out 9. His stuff looks to be improved. We've got some guys on this slate also that nobody's ever heard of before who are in spot start situations. Hector Velasquez is one of them. The Cardinals will send a spot starter to the mound. So there's some spot starters going on. But overall, from a pitching standpoint, I definitely think there's some guys that are trending in a good direction. And, Luke Weaver is a guy that I think is trending in the right direction. Frankie Montez is a guy that I think is trending in the right direction. Spencer Turnbull has had a couple of really good starts. Zach Wheeler is a borderline play. And then you have to obviously give some consideration to Zach Eflin, who's also pitched somewhat decent and is coming off a decent outing at Coors Field. So, he didn't strike out a bunch of guys, but he did manage to work his way through that game. So there's definitely some pitching on this slate to take a look at. Kenta Maeda is probably the chalk because he's a guy that is the most expensive pitcher listed on this slate, and he's the biggest household name. So, and rightfully so. But, you're talking about guys at the top of this slate that aren't extremely sexy. You're going to have to make sure you do your research. That's what we're here for. That's what the deep dive is for. That's what our stacks articles for. That's what our crush spots for. So get into those articles and you'll get a better breakdown. But there is definitely some spots that I think you could definitely target pitching. And like I said, Maeda, I think Jeff Samardzija is extremely interesting. Luke Weaver, extremely interesting. Eric Swanson and Nick Margevius, extremely interesting. And Frankie Montez and Kenta Maeda are probably my favorite too.
Yeah. So, hey, man, that's what we got for you. We gave you a lot today, man. Gave you about 6 or 7 teams, bat-wise, you could target. Gave you 4 or 5 different pitchers that you could consider. If you want a more in-depth analysis, check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. Got a lot of other sports up as well. So, hey, man, join the money team. Stop missing out. We got a free 3-day trial. I mean, you got nothing to lose. Check it out, dfscheatsheet.com. Outside of that, good luck on your guys' contest tonight, and peace out.